Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Kaylani and Jade's Corner. I am your host, Jade Thomas. I'm so sorry that I didn't do an episode last week. It was April 1st and Camp NaNoWriMo started, which, if you guys don't know what that is, it's a month-long writing challenge. You write for the month of April. There is no set word count, and I started working on a new project. I can't disclose too much about it, but what I will say is that its focus is on a young blind man who has been sheltered for most of his life. And he finally got his first apartment at age 23. He's learning to navigate that and being out from under his aunt's controlling thumb and demanding rules. So, in today's episode, and as you can tell from the title, we will be discussing Claim Me, Love Me. This is my first gay romance, and it was published November 4th of 2021. I'm very proud of what it represents, which is accepting oneself and learning to love oneself regardless of what has happened to you in your life. Caleb and Josiah, they face a lot of challenges in this book, and I mostly feel for Caleb because of what he dealt with in middle school. But I also feel for Josiah because he was ridiculed for being gay while in the foster care system. So there's a lot to unpack there, but the format is still the same for today's episode. Synopsis, snippet, facts. I do have facts for you guys today. And closing. So without further ado, let's begin. The only way to fall in love is to take the first step. For Caleb, that first step leads to fear, violence, and the death of the only boy he's ever loved. He can't admit who he is to himself. How could he ever share his deepest secrets with someone else? Josiah has known he was gay since he was 7. He's experienced in more ways than one, with sex, with other men, and as a dominant. But love is something he can't accept or give, and he's walled himself off from any kind of affection. Can Caleb confront his ghosts and learn to love himself and his new dom? Will Josiah remember how to love and be loved in turn? As Caleb and Josiah take the first few steps toward each other, their pasts threaten to overwhelm their future. No sound, no light, nothing. I was enveloped in complete darkness. Gavin and I had barely talked while walking into one of the private rooms on the 2nd floor. His voice was authoritative as he commanded me to strip, and he had calmed me by ensuring that nothing would happen without my consent. After talking about my interests, limits, and safe words, the black hood was placed over my head, and all I could focus on was my breathing. What was he doing? Then, a wet substance swiped from my neck down to my dick, and my skin tingled. Cool metal touched my skin, and I froze, my body feeling as if it was being pulled along by an electrical current. Wherever the metal went, my skin sang, and as it inched closer to my dick, I could hear my heart thumping loudly. Breathe. I inhaled and exhaled, and then I howled as skin met skin. It felt like I was on fire. Every touch made my pulse quicken, and I floated on a cloud of pleasure and pain as fingers explored my naked body. Oh God, I screamed as my dick was enveloped in hot heat, attempting to push deeper. Was this heaven? Cries fell from my lips as tongue, teeth, fingers, and lips explored every part of me. It was all too much, and just when I thought I was going to hyperventilate, something wet surrounded my round pucker. Oh, fuck, I moaned, my eyes closed tightly, and my body arching up off the bed. His name was on my lips, my tongue, in my head as his long fingers circled my hole. And as one entered me, I yelled, my body reacting as it bore down onto that single digit. Another finger entered me, and I couldn't keep the tremors from my body. Suddenly, stars flashed behind my eyes as I moaned, voice hoarse as streams of hot cum exploded from me, Gavin's delicate fingers taking me out of my body. Nothing felt the same. I couldn't think straight. Where was I? Caleb, come back to me, boy. You were superb. I've got you. It was dark. Where was the voice coming from? It was loud and overpowering. So were the smells. Everything felt too much. What had happened? Welcome back, boy. It was Gavin, his voice low but light. I'm going to take my hand away from your eyes now. Take your time adjusting. Bright lights assaulted my eyes, and I closed them, the shimmering colors dancing behind my eyelids. Opening them once more, I focused on the face above me. Blonde hair, blue eyes, small lips, freckled forehead. He grinned at me. That was successful for it to be your first time. Let's get you some water and talk about everything. You did so well. Thank you for this, I admitted hoarsely. You don't know how much this meant to me. How do you feel now? His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb stroking my chin, like I have never felt before. I feel like I can breathe now and that I can just feel, I spoke softly, leaning into his warm touch. Thank you for showing me what this could feel like. I loved submitting. Well, it's not like I had a choice. Once that hood was secure, I couldn't see or hear you. All I could do was feel. Gavin's breath touched my left cheek and I shivered. He smelled of mint and chocolate, and I breathed in his scent. I'm so proud of you. Well, I hope you enjoyed that snippet. So basically, that scene was Caleb's first time submitting, and he was doing it for research purposes, and also because he really wanted to submit to Josiah, and he needed to know what it felt like. So I don't want to give too much away about the book, but what I will say is that Caleb dealt with something pretty traumatic in middle school that involves him and another guy. And the facts that I'm about to present to you now are, in a sense, based off of what happened in middle school between Caleb and Vinny. And I feel like they're important facts. I'm very passionate about this subject, and so I just thought it would only be fair to discuss this. So the first fact that I have is that the number one reason LGBTQIA youth are homeless is because of family rejection resulting from sexual orientation or gender identity. Whew, that's a lot to unpack, and I feel that it's important because I don't know what drew me into even finding out about homeless LGBTQ youth, but back in my middle school / high school days, it had to be something that I read regarding it, but it instantly just made me want to do something. Like I felt this need and this want to help these children who were dealing with something that they shouldn't have to. Caleb and Vinny were both in middle school. And imagine if Caleb had come out when he was in middle school. Do you think that he would be homeless? I do. And it's sad. It's really sad. And I'm going to try not to get too religious here, but I will say, God teaches you to love everyone equally. And yet, LGBTQ youth, LGBTQ adults even, are not treated fairly. Families are disowning their own flesh and blood because of who they love and how they feel in their hearts. It's heartbreaking, it's sad, and it makes me want to cry. Because no child should have to leave the place that they grew up in to live out on the streets because of who they love and how they feel in their hearts. It's disrespectful and it's despicable. Okay, so the last fact that I have for you today is that 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQIA. That's a lot. No child should ever have to endure this. No child should ever have to be living on the streets. They shouldn't have to worry about where their next meal is going to come from or how they're going to get to school. Honestly, I wish that there was something that I could do to help children in these situations, because it would mean so much to them and to me to know that I've made a difference. Wow. So now we will close, and I'm going to say that I appreciate you all for listening to this episode. I know at the end here we got a little deep and sad, but I'm sorry. This is something that I'm very passionate about, and I feel that everyone should have an equal right to love who they love and to feel how they feel. And if this episode stood out to you in any way, please let me know, because I'd love to know your thoughts on this subject as well. In the description box of this episode on Anchor and on YouTube, I will place the links for the sites where I got my facts. As I always say, ta-da.